Hello guys, welcome back to our channel RK Data Labs. And today we are going to see one different topic other than our AWS Glue, Redshift, DynamoDB. Yes, so we are going to cover one interesting topic called Amazon SQS. It is simple queue service. So there are two different services when it comes to sending messages as a notification, right? So that is something we call them as SQS and SNS. SQS stands for simple queue service, whereas SNS stand for simple notification service. Okay, what is SQS first of all? Right. Simply SQS is nothing but we can simply able to create a queue. In that queue, we can able to send messages and receive messages such that it talks to other AWS services accordingly. Let me give a brief, real-time example. Let's say you are processing a Lambda. Okay. So Lambda is having a function which is, checking a kind of processing logic. Once the moment Lambda is getting completed, you want to send a message to other service, a kind of notification, a kind of message, right? Use this SQS option accordingly so that the Lambda can connect to either Glue or any other, like any services. Like it cannot be do alone. It can be DynamoDB, Redshift, anything, right? We want to simply create a queue, have a message, and send the message using queue. That's what is this SQS will talk about. We can simply, create any number of queues that you want to, simply create a SQS layer here. For free tier option, first every month 1 million requests are free. Okay, so that's what it is mentioned here. For every month 1 million SQS requests are free, and after beyond go it goes, it is chargeable. Okay, so there is no much use having creating a queue and send the messages via queue accordingly. So if you go and just simply we are going to create a queue here, there are two different options: standard, FIFO. First in, first out it is. By default, it is very standard, which means at least it will deliver once, which means there is no failure attempt will be coming up. So standard ensures that it at least delivers the message to other services. And in FIFO, there is something called, you keep on sending a couple of messages, and whichever the first message it sends, it just takes that message and then deliver that message. So it processes only once. You cannot send the same message multiple times to deliver to the another AWS service. Okay. So for now, by default option standard, I'm just using the standard option. SQS test. Okay, let me keep the name as SQS test. And then comes couple of things like configuration. This is also very important. Okay, so visibility timeout is nothing but how long the message needs to be visible for another consumer. Okay, let's say you are sending a message. Okay, after 30 seconds the same message will be visible to some other consumer. Okay, so that is called visibility timeout. So by default it is 30 seconds. Even if you want to make sure that if you want to make sure that it is visible for every 10 seconds, you can still go ahead and modify this to 10 seconds. And then comes message retention period. This is one important factor: how long the message needs to be retained in the queue. Let's say if you put 1 day, which means the message where we sent in the queue will be retained for a day, and after 1 day it keeps purging the messages in the queue respectively. So message retention period is very very important. And of course, let's not give it more number of days, because more are the days, and again if you keep on processing couple of messages in the same queue, you cannot able to keep track of it. Okay, so let's ensure that at least minimum of 1 or 2 days is the best practice that we can set. And then comes delivery delay, which means it's nothing but how long the second message and first message needs to get delivered delayed. Let's say you have sent a message first, okay, and then you want to send the second message accordingly. How much time that you need to have a delay between message 1 and message 2, that is called delivery delay. Let's say you want to send the second message after 30 seconds. Okay, you can just simply put 30 seconds here. Even though the first message sends in within a second, it keeps waiting for 30 seconds, and then only it will send the second message accordingly. That's what the delivery delay is happening. Okay, then comes maximum message size. It defaults to 256 KB. Even you can put like 10 KB or 20 KB, but the maximum size itself it's 256 KB. It will not allow beyond 256 KB for sure. And then receive message wait time. This is nothing but once you send a message in a queue, how long the message needs to be wait. Let's say like you have a consumer at the target end. Okay, you are sending a message, and that message how long the consumer need to receive, that is called receive message wait time. Okay, even you can configure between a number called 0 to 20 seconds accordingly. Even if you put 10 seconds here, consumer needs to read the message within 10 seconds. That's what this receive message wait time will work out. And then comes basic details like, having encryption layer. It is by default, it is showing as enabled, and it is using option called SSE, server side encryption, using key. All right. If you don't want, you can just mention it as disabled. And if you want to keep the messages confidential, please ensure that you are enabling it as enabled option in SSE. And then comes couple of things, access policy, of course, who needs to send, who needs to receive, and all those details can be mentioned over here. And of course, by default, it is sending like, only the queue owner can send and the queue owner can receive. And if you want to specify other accounts, you can even mention the account IDs over here. Okay, it is just an additional option over here. So the moment you keep changing this, the JSON will also keep change using this advanced option. Even if you want to, if you don't want to allow for other than the owners, right, you can just simply put as deny, and accordingly you can keep track of it. Okay, for this video I'm just making sure that I'm using basic option. And then comes at the below, this is something like redrive allow policy, which means sometimes the message might not be delivered successfully. It may get failed, right? Sometimes maybe network issue or some other issue, anything can happen, maybe a VPC issue or anything like that. So in such cases, if you want to make sure that you are sending the failed messages in a queue to a particular queue, right, you can even select this option as well. So that is something called dead letter queue. So this redrive and dead letter queue both are associated. Okay, let's say if you want to, if you are just trying to enable this option, right, it is just trying to allow all the messages in the queue in the same queue itself. Okay, let's say you want to have a different queue, you can select the different queue and send the message. So this is nothing but you are choosing a different alternative option to send the message to a consumer. So this is just a kind of options which is provided in the SQS interface. And then comes the important thing, as I said, dead letter queue. If you just simply enabling it, you want to whichever the messages which are not get successfully delivered, which is get failed, right, you can simply store those respective messages in different type of queue. Even you can create a separate queue called failed queue or failed messages queue, like that, and you can just select those queue respectively. Okay, which means you can able to understand like these messages from this queue is not successfully delivered to the consumer. Okay, yes, these numbers are very default. Maximum receives, let it be 10 itself. Maximum you can put like 1000, like, which means it accepts 1000 messages in that particular queue, and beyond that it will not accept. So you need to create one more queue accordingly. And these options are very self-explanatory. Tags are not something very important. Simply I'm just going to create a queue. Yes, I'm not going to set this, I'm going to set this as disabled as of now. I'm not going to make sure that it is dead letter queue. Right, fantastic. It has created a separate queue called SQS underscore test. So you can simply see all those details over here, right? So even if you want to subscribe to SQS to SNS, you can just simply use this option to subscribe. And I'm going to test this queue. So what I'm going to do, I'm just simply click on send and receive message. Okay, so now I'm not going to delay anything at all. So the moment I send it, it needs to get received. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm just simply sending this message. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to poll the message. So the moment you click the poll for messages, it has automatically seen this message. So if you can just simply click this, you can see the body of the message, which we have given explicitly, right? And the metadata information, everything you can see under details option, like what is the MD5 and how many receives you have got and all those things. Okay, and then this polling, this is nothing but the delivery delay. That's what we have set up, right? The 30 seconds option. The 30 seconds option is nothing but the polling progress. So the moment you again poll for the messages, it still keep polling, for the second message, which again the same message we can receive. So if you can see here, right, the message has got as 2. So since I click on poll for messages, it has simply checked for the same message which is still in the queue or not, and then it has received as number 2. So we have got the same message we have got received 2 times. That's what it is telling us, receive count as 2. And if you in the between, if you want to stop polling, you can just simply click on stop polling as well. Okay, even if you want to just simply delete it, you can just simply go ahead and delete this as well. So it will not give any details at all. All right. Or else if you want to simply enable this with the lambda function, you can still go ahead and lambda. So you can just simply you want to make sure that this queue is to be associated with a lambda, right? You can just simply click on this configure, click on this, and you can select any kind of lambda. Let's say you have a separate called queue test, and you can just simply save it. Okay, it will successfully save this SQL test queue to a lambda function. So anytime you can trigger that lambda function so that this queue will be associated with that lambda function every time you send a message. Okay, so here we go. That's it from this today's video. We have covered like how to create queue and how to different setup configurations and all those stuffs. We'll meet you soon in my different AWS video. Stay tuned guys. Thanks for watching this video.